Hi everyone. Today we're going to have a look at the Holy Grail. We're going to look at our feet coordination as we move off. And this is a common thing which most learners are going to go through at one point or another. Moving off is often the scariest time for someone learning to drive. They're always panicking about stalling. And a lot of driving instructors actually don't teach this in the correct way. They do what we call diesel dodge, which is just using the clutch to move away. A lot of driving instructors choose diesel cars because they're a little bit more forgiving. They're a little bit more difficult to stall. Effectively, the engine's got a little bit more pulling power and it makes it easier to move away. But then when you get in your petrol, small engine car, you're going to struggle. So I'm going to try and rectify this today. We're just going to look at the actual act of moving off. So, first things, we're going to get the car prepared by pressing the clutch pedal down and selecting first gear to move off. The next thing, I'm going to show you actually what happens to the engine when I don't use the gas pedal when I'm starting off. And I'm going to try and explain what's going on and what causes the stall. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise the clutch until I find a bite. Now, what's going to happen if you look at the rev counter is that the rev counter is going to move, but this car is a little strange. Strange, I mean, modern cars, the latest models are tending to do this, but a lot of the old ones do it differently. Let me show you. As I lift the clutch, you watch the rev counter, it slightly rises. All that's going on there, the car is sensing that there's a little bit of drive from the engine going through the clutch, and it's realizing the car needs a little bit of power, and it's giving it that little bit of power. I'm not touching the gas pressure and pedal. So, what we're actually going to do is now continue lifting this clutch, and you'll hear that the engine is starting to struggle. As there's more and more drive wanting to go forward, there's more and more load going onto the engine. The engine's struggling and struggling. But these modern cars, like I said, fight against that. You watch what happens when I press this clutch pedal down. The needle then settles back down to normal. The engine or the car has realised it's not trying to move off and it doesn't need that extra power. And all that happens in a car without these anti-stall measures, if you like, is that when you lift the clutch to the bite, the engine's got this load on it and it's trying to work and it's trying to move the car away, but there's not enough power to do that. And it's pushing the engine lower than it actually wants to work at. Where it is at the moment is what we call idle speed. It's the lowest speed that the engine wants to work at. And when you move away with just the clutch pedal, the car's always pushing towards a stall. So when we're moving off, we've got to do what we call set the gas. We need this right pedal or the accelerator or the gas pedal squeezed. We need it squeezed about the thickness of a pound coin, a couple of millimeters. Now, what you should hear for or listen to is a gentle rise in engine note. So I'm squeezing this pedal just a tiniest little bit and the engine makes more of a noise. Don't be scared of this noise either. People often are wary of the engine making too much of a sound and the car's going to suddenly zoom off. I'll try and explain that in a second. So what we're after is probably a little bit more sound than we've got at the moment. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit more. Sounds about right. We've got plenty of power then to move away. And if you have a quick look at the rev counter, we're sat at about 1500 revs. Now, I'm not interested in that, if I was honest. I do it by sound, and I get my pupils to do it by sound. So try and do that yourself, but if you've got a rev counter, we're after a fair bit, up near 1500, but eventually listen to it and try and use your ears to actually sort this situation out. So, we've now got enough power. When I now find the bite, all that's going to happen is, yes, the engine has got a little bit more load on it, and there it is. You can hear and actually see the rev counter just take that drop. Now the car's at that biting point. It's not struggling, it's not down to stall level. So quite simply, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do some quick observations to make sure it is all clear for me to move away, and I'm going to keep my feet still. Take the handbrake off, and all I need to do to move away is squeeze my gas a tiny little bit more because it's dropped off a touch, and lift my clutch a tiny little bit more. Now I'm keeping it still. You don't have to keep on lifting or keep lifting for the car to continue to move away. Now the car's travelled a car length or so, I'm going to lift the clutch pedal fully up, and then it's just the gas that's in control. Alright, now let's have a look what happens when you don't do it properly. Maybe you don't use enough gas, and I'll show you the difference. So, clutch down, into gear. Without the gas now, all I'm going to do is find the bite. There we go. Not going to use any gas yet, and I'm just going to try and move the clutch up slowly and see what happens. Do a quick check around, no one's about. Now, have a look, just the clutch. It jumps and jerks and nearly stalls. But luckily, because of the diesel engine, it didn't. But it doesn't allow you to actually move away quickly. The only way that you can actually move away is very, very slowly. And that's where the problem happens. Quite simply, if you use your gas to start off and then move the clutch up to the biting point, you'll actually need to move the clutch less to get the car off and moving. And it allows you to control how quickly the car does move away. You can only move away slowly, like I said, with just using the clutch. But if you use the gas, you can still move the car away slowly, but you can also move it away a little bit quicker. Okay, so let's recap. What we're going to be doing is pressing the clutch down to prepare the car, selecting the appropriate gear, and we need gas. We always need to hear that engine before we start finding a bite, and then you're going to lessen your chance of stalling all the time. We'll then find the bite. The perfect amount is when we lift this clutch pedal up, and as soon as we hear the engine note drop a bit. There. Feet still. Just going to do a quick check around. Release my handbrake. A little bit more gas, a little lift, more bite, then hold still for a car length. Then when I've travelled a car length, you can actually hear the engine change. You can lift your clutch pedal straight up. Thanks a lot for watching as always. If you're interested in any of the gear that I use on the videos, check out the links below.